laughing because I'm like,
Emily's eating an empanada, and I'm currently in Miami, and I have no food in the fridge. And yesterday I went out, and everywhere I went, I was like, I'll just get food while I'm out. Every place I just got an empanada that by the end of the day, I was like, I was an empanada. That's how I started.
Like, I've had 3 meals today and they were all empanadas.
They were, yes. That's why I say the best part about living in Miami is how close I am to the United States. So, there we go.
No, I literally was just like, I'm so hungry, and we just got back from Vegas. So I was like, half the stuff is expired and like has like mold. So I had to throw everything away. And then I was like, I'm going to pass out while recording. And then I was like, so I'm going to go ahead and heat up this little baby empanada.
I wish we could have ASMR so we could hear the
my God. I was gonna say, worst case come scenario, and I fail at politics. That's what I'm going to be doing on TikTok.
Oh my God, you could do it with your nails. Welcome back to Unfollowed. We have there's so much going on. I feel like it was Labor Day, and on Labor Day, we were talking about the pod and how I wasn't sure that there was like all that much to talk about this week. And then between just yesterday, just Tuesday was like a week's worth of topics that came up. So
yeah, I don't think we're ever going to run out of anything I mean, it's kind of funny. Strangers will come up to me and they're like, yeah, well, you're never going to run out of things to talk about. And I'm like, that sucks. I wish I would.
You know what actually that reminds me, and this is not on the news topics of the week, but I do just want to say, I have a lot of people who will say to me, oh, like, do you want, at the time it was Biden, but now it's like, now people are saying, do you want Kamala to win so you have content? No, because unlike, the grifters at CNN and like the so-called journalists, like, who actually secretly want Trump because they know it's really good for their wallets and they know it's good for their content and their audience. We actually just want the country to do well. And so I would just rather have less content and have Donald Trump win. But also, we would never run out of content because the man is so fucking funny.
Also, that's like the most insane thing to say is like, hey, do you want, not because like people don't realize like what an effect we have on all the other countries. Because obviously financially it affects them. When we go to war, it affects them. And just like influence alone. So it's like, yeah, everything that happens here, it hurts around the world. So it's like to be like, no, I want the world to crumble so I can have more content. Okay, well, you're an actual psychopath.
But that shows you the thinking of the thought process of the liberal mind, right? Because these are all liberals who ask me this. Once in a while, it's a conservative, but it's generally not. And I've gotten that question dozens of times.
I've had it like way too many times to where I like look at them. I'm like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah, exactly. What's wrong with you? No, it's but also I won't. One of my favorite quotes that I read this week, I couldn't find a clip on it, but I do believe it was a real quote. It was in an article where someone was asking Trump about, I think it was a New York Post article about like how Barron responded to the news about the assassination attempt, and Trump was talking about it. He's like, he was playing tennis. He's a wonderful tennis player, like the best tennis player, And then he said Melania doesn't like talking about it, and he said, and I guess that means she likes me because it upsets her. It's like, you've been married for 20 plus years. It's just such a Trump line. It's like, well, at least my wife doesn't want to kill me,
Yeah. No, and also, I was going to say, I didn't write it down, but a good thing to start on would be, because they asked me last night on Sky News Australia, was the IVF thing. Because I feel like all liberals had was Trump is going to ban abortions. He's going to ban IVF.
Yeah.
And he's going to take away women's rights. So it's like, not only is he not doing a nationwide abortion ban, he's now going to protect IVF to the point of literally forcing the government to pay for it. And the thing is, you can't hate on this if you're on the right because you're obsessed with like have babies and do all these things. Yeah. You also can't hate on women using IVF because women are damaged by society from all the shit and toxins we consume 24/7. So it's not this thing like, there's something wrong. Like, I don't know. I think it's sick to be like, to not want women to have help having children. But it's so funny because I'm like, at this point, what do they have left against him?
Yeah. No, but they don't. And that's why, I mean, first I will say though, on the right, there were a lot of people on the right, and I bet we're going to get comments about this, that there are people who are upset about Trump's stance on IVF. And to the point that there were all these pro-lifers on Twitter, or so-called pro-lifers, who actually like seem like they're just like moles in the movement trying to just stymie any, success, because what we've seen now is with the overturning of Roe v. Wade with Dobbs, everything went back to the states. And so if you're pro-life and you're trying to get abortion on the ballot to, have it banned in all these different states, it failed. We know abortion is up in the country since Dobbs, right? So it's had the opposite effect. So we're seeing how ineffective these advocates are. But also when you look into the financials, like Lila Rose was all over Twitter a week or two ago about this when Trump came out with the announcement. And people were digging into how her organization spends money, and they spend it on super fancy galas and on her big salary, and there's no progress. There are no results for all that work. So it'd be one thing if you saw people were actually working towards the goals that they're preaching, but they're not. So, and there are a lot of people in the movement threatening to sit at home. And this is where it gets so unhinged. You're telling me that you're going to sit at home and not vote for Donald Trump because, oh, is Kamala going to save more babies? Like who's actually saving more babies in this election, right? You're like, I think it's so insane to even threaten that. It is such we're at a moment in time where it's people who want civilization, who are pro-civilization against the nihilists, and you have to take a side and you have to participate, right?
I want to read what I posted, because it's like, I'm not great with words. It's not where I do well, but this guy called the Right-Winged Angel posted a series of threads, and like it or not, he was like literally right on every single thing he posted. I mean, he was like, dear conservatives, not voting for Trump because he's not strong enough on abortion is literally like saying you care about the unborn child of strangers more than you care about your own children being born in this country. And he was like, as much as I hate to say it, our country is not ready to ban abortions. That is a cultural fight we have not yet won and never will win either. He said the majority of Americans are pro-choice. That's a fact many conservatives don't want to accept. Facts. Trump cannot win this election by stating he wants to ban abortions. And I was like, literally everything he said, all facts. Like the country's not ready for this conversation. And guess what? It's actually never going to happen.
Yeah.
It's never going to happen.
And you know what the movement, the extreme part of the movement is saying? What they're essentially saying is, since I can't save all the babies, I'm just going to save none of them. That's your attitude. That's how you're actually approaching this. So
I don't have, as someone who came out as pro-choice the entire time I've done this, I don't know why it's a surprise anymore. And by the way, pro-choice for other people does not mean pro-choice for myself. Mm-hmm. I know people can't use their brains to distinguish those things, especially when it comes to liberals not reproducing. And I'm like a lot of people not reproducing, they shouldn't. But it's like kind of crazy because it's like one of those conversations where the pro-life people are so insane.
Yeah.
And they've always been so horrible to me. And most of my death threats in the beginning came from them. And I'm like, I hate to say this, wake up. It's a losing battle. Like, I respect what you do. That's amazing. But it's like, you're going about it the wrong way. Because when I argue with Republicans about this that are psycho, I'm always like, hey, do you ever like think about like going and educating women, young women on their bodies and like introducing natural ways of birth control and all these things? It's like, just don't be a slut. And it's like, okay, well, you should acknowledge now more than ever with immigrants coming over and raping women every single day in this country that maybe this isn't the time to like admit that these things don't exist.
It's kind of that quote, which is, if you're going to save, if you can't save all the babies, you'll save none. I just feel like they'd rather lose. Like you'd rather lose than slowly make progress. And I just don't know why people think that taking someone who's like, let's say you're a girl who grew up in probably a family that doesn't talk that much about politics. You probably could have had maybe better values, better guidance, but like that you were born into a certain home and into a certain culture. And you look at the right and you look at people who are judging you and hating you and trying to get you to the most extreme point of the argument. Like, how are you ever going to just walk them slowly over to our side? And this is not the way. It's just not.
I think people like me do that because it's like, I'm smart enough to understand, like, you're just a product of your environment 99% of the time. And especially like in big cities, like people are not growing up with like religion on farms and all these things. Like girls here are going and losing their virginity at 11, 12 years old. They're going to nightclubs at 13 years old. So it's like, you can't like, it's better to like gently walk those people to another side. And also, I've never met a girl in my life who's pro-choice who's like, yeah, no, you can kill the baby at 5 months. Like that's also a very pushed argument that's actually not very realistic. You're only going to find that in extremely far left demonic people anyways. That's not something most Republicans out here are like, any Republican I've ever met is okay with.
But I think the point of this issue also is just, I mean, Trump needs these votes, right? We can't win without getting people onto our side. We can't just get, a lot of people are focused on like the lower hanging fruit of like, oh, just find conservatives who don't vote or aren't registered, or like, I mean, I think there is a lot to say. Like there are dozens of thousands of like unregistered gun owners, for example. And I know like Scott Pressler, we've mentioned him before, he's doing an amazing job and like going to all these gun shops and getting them to register people. But like in Michigan, which could be in play. Like I actually think I saw just before we hopped on here that Nate Silver came out saying, the famous 538 pollster guy, and he's saying that Michigan is in play for Trump, which is also funny because it's like the caliphate in parts of Michigan, but we can't win a state like that with such extreme policies. Like you have to, like, the point of a president is to rule for all of America. And yes, you could lean conservative. I want Trump to be conservative. Like I am conservative, but you are a president to the entire country, right? So,
you can't be like expecting him to be pro-life when that is like such a small part of most places, and that divides. And by the way, if he were to come out with hard stances like that, not only would we lose, but it just gives the left so much fuel. And at this point, he's actually given the left no fuel.
Yeah,
there's nothing.
I think that's right. I think that's right. Although I do like he's doing all the podcasts now. That's been good. I think people need, like, I've had a few friends, especially, I haven't heard anybody talk about the Lex Fridman podcast, but I know when Jared Kushner did it, a lot of friends of mine messaged me saying, wow, I never knew this about Jared. He's so great. It really changed my mind about him. He's not the monster I thought. And I don't really understand how it is that like you and I can understand what the truth is when we have the same access to all the same podcasts and publications and everything. And for some reason, people on the left, they believe everything they were fed all the way back in 2016, like that Trump derangement syndrome, even if they're not like people who are calm and like not angry about Trump, but just won't vote for him. They're still infected with that virus of all the lies they've been fed for, at this point, 8 years. And I just don't know. I think the only way to undo that is to just give them more Trump, like put him in front of them. And we know when Kamala goes in front of people, her polls just get
thank God. That's why I was like, put her out there as much as we can. It's actually crazy because I heard nothing but negative things my entire life about Jared Kushner. Like I never heard one positive thing. And then and like my boyfriend, who obviously hates politics, he was like, that was one of the best interviews I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
And I thought so as well. And it's crazy how one interview with someone fantastic, very unbiased, can completely change your opinion on someone. But no, Lex Fridman, I'm like a huge fan of. So the second that dropped, I was like, oh my God, first Elon Musk interview and then Theo Vaughn interview, which was actually great. Trump was so chill in that interview. It was actually one of the most sincere interviews I've ever seen him do. Mm-hmm. And then now you have Lex Fridman, who I think is like one of the most brilliant people. And I'm just like, it's crazy that he's doing interviews to like the biggest people in the country. And Kamala can't even get her shit together for 45 minutes on CNN. And they had to lie about that as well.
Well, no, didn't they say that they recorded for something like 41 minutes and we got an 18-minute?
Yeah. And they said it was live, but it wasn't live.
Yeah. And not just that, did you see the other day, Kamala was walking out of her motorcade up onto her plane with first of all, with they did the wires. Listen, I'm a wired girl for many reasons. We're wired. So but they obviously did that for the optics to be like, oh, like she's unavailable.
She's one of you guys. She's normal. She's not a fucking elitist.
She's listening to music or she's on a call. And then, but she goes up the stairs and there's an image of her, a still photo where she's holding the phone up to her head, but the wires are in. It's like, I'm sure she was on a call. I'm sure that's what she was doing.
Truly one of the most embarrassing images.
I mean, this is everything about her is staged. Everything. Like the number of times, if I have to hear one more time about her fucking greens and how she makes them in a bathtub.
Oh my God. Did you see my Instagram post? I was like, literally, first of all, I was like, you're racist ass code switching. The fact that you think your black voters are so stupid, you have to literally put on multiple different accents to talk to them is so funny. Like Democrats are literally the most racist people on the planet. And I hate calling people racist because I don't even believe racism 99% of the time is even a fucking real thing, which is like a whole nother thing. But it's like so funny because she's like, out of nowhere, she's like, oh, I put Tabasco in my collard greens. And it's like, what in the actual fuck? If I was a black voter, I'd be so offended. Like, how is this bitch real? This is crazy.
Yeah, I saw some tweets online where people were saying like, oh, white people are finally finding out about code switching. It's like Kamala Harris grew up with a PhD father in a very nice neighborhood in Canada and basically had mostly Indian culture. And I'm not trying to get into the whole, like, is she black? I thought that was a mistake on the campaign's part to talk about that. Like, that's dumb. She has a black father. But the point is just that she grew up in just like an affluent, educated place. What code switching are you fucking talking about?
Also, I'm sorry, she code switching to go back to her mansion in Brentwood.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Yeah. I was like, I think code switching for Kamala is getting like toitier and toitier. I don't think it's like that. I don't think it's like
she should be doing different levels of affluent white switching.
Yes. Yes.
Not like she didn't grow up like in the hood. This is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. She's a very embarrassing woman, just overall. It was that, and then, God, oh yeah, did you see? I reposted the tweet that Barack Obama's brother was like Trump 2024.
I know. Well,
and then Tim Walz's family.
Tim Walz's family. I want it to be like fully verified, but I think it is because it's definitely not AI. It's definitely not a fake photo. It's not a fake photo. And it's Tim Walz's family, and it says Nebraska waltzes for Trump. And his brother has come out against him. And this man, everything about this man is so slimy, so shady. We know that he has no money, right? We talked about this on the pod before, but the man has 0 stocks. It's such low T soy beta energy. The man has no investments. He's never made money, which, like, normally I don't like politicians making money off of politics. But I'm also concerned that he's made no money off of politics in all this time because the man's just such a loser that he has no money, but he somehow has the money and the time and the means to go to China over 30 times, right? Riddle me that. How is that?
And then I saw on TikTok his home state had a local fair, and it was like down with Waltz, and it was a whole booth set up. And I'm like, okay, so your family's against you, your brother's against you, and your home state fair had a thing against you. And I'm like, yeah, you should definitely help run the country. So everyone hates you.
Everyone hates him. They, what was it? Like the Nebraska Business, it's not like the Business Bureau, but it was that agency where he's claimed for decades that he won some sort of like business merit award from some random place. And it's like, there are all types of lies to tell, but what's so concerning is when someone lies about the most random details, right? Yeah. And so they actually came out with a statement saying, we've never awarded this to Tim Walz. There's no record of him ever receiving this. I'm pretty sure it was on his wiki for a while. They probably removed it at this point when the statement.
Is that like Kamala? Like, didn't McDonald's headquarters be like, she actually never really worked here?
I doubt McDonald's came out with that because I feel like they're not getting into the mix of it, if I had to guess. But there's no proof. Like I did see that Kamala didn't actually work for McDonald's, and I saw a nice little photo of Kamala with a hat, and it said, would you like some flies with that? But like lies was highlighted.
It's like honestly so stupid. Like I wouldn't even lie about these things. And like if you're in this position, like you can't lie about anything. You're gonna get caught like no matter what you do.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and then also with the Elon thing, you see like he was posting like, oh, like Trump would like open him to like go into the cabinet or whatever, because you saw Kamala's interview where she straight up is like, no, we cannot have free speech. It's dangerous. So we need to ban it across all platforms. And I'm like, okay, first of all, all platforms are allowed to have different rules to go by. Like I know TikTok is a Marxist, communist, shitty app that I hope disappears. And all it does is fuel like pro-Muslim, anti-American hatred into this world. Because that's literally all it does. You can't be Republican on there. I'm on my last strike, so don't even bother following me because they're going to take me down. Because I said a guy wearing a little girl's dress in Santa Monica was weird. And I got a strike on my account because his balls out wearing a little girl's dress is weird. And I'm not allowed to say that, but you can tell me to kill myself 9 million times. So that's like one thing. But I'm like, what do you
Welcome to the party. Welcome to the party. I got banned from TikTok within like 2 months of posting.
You can be anything on TikTok. You can literally, the amount of girls that I saw on TikTok that were like, I love Osama bin Laden and he was amazing and I can't believe what America did to him. But God forbid I talk about a cross-dresser. It's the worst thing that's ever fucking happened on that. Also, there's like child porn on that app. I see crazy shit on that app. So
there's there's crazy stuff. Anytime I talk about birth control and how bad it is for you and how I was on it for like, they just stuck me on it when I was a teenager because like, it wasn't even for anything like sexual related. Like they did it for like hormone regulation and for helping with, you know, things like that. And they just stuck me on it when my parents didn't know to ask the questions. I don't blame them. Like they didn't know it was a different.
Yeah, because they used to trust doctors.
We used to trust doctors. And so they didn't know. And then I woke up, you know, after like, but it took a long time. And I'm still like, I'm going to acupuncture now, still trying to deal with that decision that was made on my behalf by these doctors a very long time ago, even though I've been off of it for a while. And anytime I've made a video about that and posted it to YouTube or even Instagram, like it's like it gets pushed down. I'll literally get 0 views on a YouTube short, and you think like
but it's not just you, because everyone I know who does health and wellness, they're like, we do the worst on TikTok. Like literally straight up, the only people I see with followers and views on TikTok there's that one fat girl who just shits on men for a living, which is crazy because she does videos reacting to them, which is straight up bullying, straight up, like sends people to go attack these people to like lose their jobs and shit. She's the #1 account. By the way, just did a book, New York Times bestseller. Okay. And she's making insane money, which is funny because she like just got married. She's like, fuck you. And I'm like, I like how you think that that's like your biggest accomplishment. Like that guy's not going to fucking leave your fat, crazy ass. But it was so funny because she's #1, and then anyone who does porn is like #2.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
so it's just like, fuck that app.
Yeah, of course, a woman who's hating on men is just being promoted on an app like TikTok. But that
She's
doesn't
made an insane career, by the way.
I'm sure, but that's what they want because, well, the government, they want to be the husband and the father figure for every American family, right? They don't actually want the nuclear family because when there's a strong father figure, that means that you're an independent family and you're going to think for yourselves and provide for yourselves, which is also why I think, I mean, we could get into this another time, but something I think a lot about is like custody law in this country. And it's not as topical for today. And we'll cover this another time when we don't have as many topics to go that we want to go through. But custody law is, and just welfare in general, because custody law in America heavily favors the mother when we know that single father homes have far better outcomes than single mother homes. So why is it that we separate kids from the father? And the best conclusion I come to when you look at all these stats is that it's because it's in the government's interest to basically keep these families in the welfare spin circle of hell, where you can't get out of it. And these people, and then the kids from those homes grow up to then repeat the same mistakes. It's some crazy stat. I don't want to misquote the number, but it's a really, really high percentage of kids who are born in single mother homes who are in poverty, end up on welfare. And that's like 3/4 of single parent homes in America are single mother homes. And it's not to say single mothers don't have a really tough job and there are a lot of deadbeat dads and everything like that. So that's an obvious side point, but I think it's really important. But I want to get back to topics of the week because there's so much that is going on. Actually, we want to talk about ESPN and
that's what I want.
It's so great. But ESPN has just been so woke. Like, we need like a new ESPN that's not woke.
Yeah. Apparently you can't say White Lives Matter, but you can say anything else matters.
Anything else. You can say Black Lives Matter, right?
Yeah.
But you can't say White Lives Matter.
I don't understand like why it's so funny because I think during BLM I posted like White Lives Matter or something because I was just posting like anything offensive I possibly could, which is so funny because I believe that, because I believe all lives matter, which is the same thing as like white supremacy, and I stand by that. But it's so funny. I'm like, I don't understand. If you can say one, why can't you say the other?
Well, but because now we're in like the anti-racist era where you only get to say one side, which by the way, that used to be considered racism. It used to be, if you could say one, you could say the other. If you can't say it about one, you cannot say it about the other. And now it's like this pendulum has swung so far.
I think if Black Lives Matter is extremely acceptable, I don't see why like you can't be like fucking European Lives Matter, White Lives Matter. Like it's stupid because like the only slogan should be like all lives matter, unless you're a Democrat. You know what I mean?
You're a liberal baby.
Yeah, unless you're a liberal way. And then also we wanted to talk about how come only Democrats get caught with Chinese spies.
Oh my God. They love this. It's so crazy. Well, listen. Okay, so first what we're talking about, for anyone who didn't see, is obviously that Governor Kathy Hochul's former aide was caught being a CCP spy. And I want to give Kathy a little leeway here, okay? Because when you yourself are totally aligned with the CCP policies and propaganda, then how are you even supposed to notice that a CCP spy is in your circle? How are you supposed to know?
Yeah, if you're obsessed, if like all the Democrats are all like, when they're not trading stocks illegally, they're all in bed with China. So, it's kind of
literally in bed. I think Mr. Eric Swalwell, I think
what was that? Fang? That was the first one, right? That was recently? It was Fang, right?
Yeah.
That's not being racist. Wasn't that her name?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And I think there was a time where he tried commenting on Trump and like the way he is with women. It's like, I'm sorry, but I think you have to sit this one out.
Yeah. You're like, you've been in bed with a Chinese spy for a very long time. And
but
then
left, they're so in bed with China. Again, going back to Tim Walz, why is no one digging into his connections with China? The man has been there over 3 dozen times.
I thought I read he was born there. Is that not correct?
I don't think he was born there, but
okay.
But he honeymooned there. Who does their honeymoon?
Yeah. I mean, that's actually fucking weird.
Where all romance happens. Not Lake Como, Tiananmen Square. But the man, there's something really bizarre about that. He has really scary quotes about his admiration for China. And also, have you ever noticed he does a thing at a lot of rallies and like these different public appearances where he does like that, like sort of Japanese like bow to people, where he bows to people. Like that's how he.
Why is he doing that? That's weird.
Shaking their hand. It's very strange. You should everyone should look for this, especially at the rallies. He's also really awkward with his wife, and I know he lied. And we know he lied about doing IVF, which is the strangest thing to lie about. But I also believed it because I'm like, I just don't think you ever have sex with your wife. But he bows to people, and it's like, that's so un-American, actually. Like, we're not Brits who bow to royalty. I don't even, when I go to a yoga class, and at the end, they say namaste, and everyone bows their heads to the instructor. I don't do that, because I bow to God and God alone. And when I pray, I bow. And that is the only time you will ever catch me bowing in that position. So
I really,
all the time.
My girlfriend said to me last night, I said something about illegal immigrants, and she was like, well, I mean, we are like all like British immigrants, but I'm like, shut the fuck up, please shut the fuck up. This whole we're actually all calling it, okay, I'm actually not fucking British, okay? Do you hear me with a fucking accent? This whole shit of colonization and white people, we're all immigrants. No, we're fucking not. I'm a fucking American. You're an American. When people say shit like that, it blows my mind because it's so stupid. I'm friends with lots of British people. I love the Brits. I'm American. They're fucking British. Okay. Same with like all the Rwandan kids stabbing children. They're not British either.
But it's really flawed logic, because if you think about it, you could say that when they always claim like, oh, Europeans colonized this place and that place. It's like, well, they were just immigrants. Actually, by your definition, know. And I always wonder when they claim how that white people colonized everywhere and used war, which by the way, it's just like, that could be true, because that's the way the world fucking worked for thousands of years, and everyone was killing everyone, and everyone was enslaving everyone.
And everyone was a slave, and they were enslaving, and they were colonizing.
Comes from from the Slavic region, because of where it's like, it's so ridiculous. But I always want to ask them, then where are white people from? Because it seems that they're from nowhere.
Yeah. It's interesting. There's so many of us, but we came from nowhere, which is crazy. Yeah. Oh God, the millions of comments on my TikTok calling me a colonizer. I'm like, it's called winning. It's called winning. Maybe you guys should try winning some wars if you want to colonize places, okay? It's called being the fucking best. That's what we are, and I'm not going to settle for anything less. Also, this is so random, but last night on the news, they were like, Michelle Obama was giving a speech, and she was talking about how she used IVF to get her kids. And I'm like, of course you did.
Well, you know what I always say?
Because you're not a woman.
Our first Black president was Bill Clinton. Barack Obama was our first gay president. So that checks out.
Yeah. I was like, of course you did IVF. Anyways, where's the pregnancy photos? Where are they?
I don't get it. Like, you know what? When people say, oh, she just doesn't want to deal with, all the commentary about, like, you know what? Barack Obama wound up coughing up his birth certificate, which I put in quotes.
Yeah.
I don't fucking buy it for a
No.
second. That was when Donald Trump won me over a long time ago, when he was the one pushing, as they call us, birthers. You better believe I'm a birther. I don't believe, like, nothing about it makes sense. There's like, no,
I don't understand when people get offended when everything is so easy to approve. Like anything you say about me, if I wanted to disprove it, I would just simply show you proof, and then I wouldn't be butthurt over it, and I wouldn't take like offense to it either. Like, you know what I mean? If you wanted to be like, show me your 23andMe, I'd be like, yeah, fucking here you go. Here's a screenshot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Also, this is really random, but I was watching Michelle Obama's speech. She has the scariest teeth I've ever. Have you seen her teeth? They're like full blown fucking predator teeth, and it's the weirdest thing I've ever seen because you're like borderline a billionaire. You would think you would like get your teeth fixed. I'm like, shit, if I was balling out, I'd get a lot of things done. But like me and my boyfriend were like watching, and I was like, and we were like, that's the craziest lineup of teeth I've ever seen in my life. They're full blown like predator, like that. And I just thought it was weird that no one's ever acknowledged that. And I know that makes you a bad person, but like,
I haven't. No, I don't look that closely because I just find her repulsive. That
like,
it's difficult for me to watch the clips of her. I also just find her to be so masculine that.
No, but that's what I'm saying. She has a very masculine mouth, and it looks like she's been like gnawing on wood for like 1,000 years. It's like really crazy looking. I'll send you it on another time.
Oh
also, if my audio sounds better now, it's because it was fucked up the first time. So you guys don't need to like call it out.
We fix it. Don't need to call
and then
it.
you know what my favorite thing is too? Elon Musk it's been posted a lot of times, but he posted this whole like voter ID is racist. Like, we know the only reason they don't want voter ID is because they're, registering all the illegals, and they are attempting to steal the election for the second time, but it's not going as well this time because we have free fucking speech. But it's so funny because when they're like voter ID is racist, and then someone posted like all the like brown and black countries that everywhere has voter ID except for us. Literally almost every other country on the fucking planet.
Well, you've seen the man on the street interviews, right? Where they go to like students at Columbia University, and then they go to Harlem, and they're like, do you think it's racist?
Ami Horowitz, right?
Yeah, it's usually Ami Horowitz. And it's funny because everyone on the street in Harlem is like, I obviously have an ID. Like, I need it to do like, you need an ID to drive, to get alcohol. Do everything. I have to show my ID to send something with FedEx. Like it's just, it's so wild to me. But yeah, we know why they're doing it, because they want to steal the election. That's the only reason.
Yeah. And it's like people need to start, thank God Elon's like going hard right now, calling them out on all their bullshit. But it's like, just admit you're trying to steal the election for the second time, and just admit that like what they're finding, like millions of fucking illegal immigrants like on voters and registered. And it's so funny. You have the video they showed on the news of the guy reporting with a mask on, and behind him is literally like some fat woman shoving ballots into a box. And I'm like, oh my God, they literally stole the election in real time. And we know this.
No, I have friends where they had like they could track their ballot in California. And my friend, hers like never went it just never went anywhere. And she's a Republican who voted for Trump.
And I don't trust the tracking.
Yeah, I don't trust the tracking.
And I don't know if you remember for the first time so a lot of weird shit, I don't know, because I know it's like here we're in California, but it was weird. This was the first time people were getting ballots sent to their houses, like, that were dead, that haven't lived here, all these things. My friends were complaining that like there weren't certain candidates on their ballots and they were registered differently, which is weird. And then when we went to turn our ballots in, there was a part missing on the envelope where it literally said if you were Republican, so they could simply just take that and throw it away.
Yeah. No, it's showing on the outside of the envelope, which
we don't know why would that be there.
Yeah. No, I forget which state it is. I wish I had it with me, but one of these states, there's they're choosing the order in which to list candidates. Like, oh, what a coincidence. You're listing Donald Trump all the way at the bottom, right? With like some random no names above. It's like, it's so corrupt. It is just so corrupt.
That's why it really bothers me. I posted, it kind of bothers me because it was like Sean Strickland, I think, or something, was like shitting on California. And like, there's a lot of dumb fucking people that live here and there's a lot of dumb people in power. But when he was just like, what's wrong with you guys? And I'm like, okay, you do realize like, we're not all voting for this. We're not all insane. Obviously most of the most successful people in the world live right here in Beverly Hills. There's a reason that they live here. But at the same time, you're basically blaming us for a completely corrupt system. Like, do you really think we voted for Gascon. We had hundreds of thousands of signatures to vote him out, our shitty fucking district attorney, who's so much blood on his hands. And the thing is, they disqualified like 80% of ballots. And we found out like, oh, if you were outside the line this much, oh, if you did this, if you did this. The thing is, it's like we're going against, in California, a completely corrupt, rigged system that is like so in place with so many corrupt people. Like, you know, you have Gavin Newsom is connected to everybody. And so it's like one of those things that kind of pisses me off because it's like, bro, we're trying as much as we can here, but what are we supposed to do? Genuinely, what are we supposed to do?
Also, a lot of people don't have the ability to just pick up and move, right? Like they have so many things that tie them or businesses where it makes it really hard. But yeah, it's funny. It's ironic though, because we have so many political refugees in this country as we're just accepting people who are not actually truly seeking a like refugee status and they're just abusing our system. Is it California? Aren't you guys, you're going to be stuck paying like $150K per illegal, something like that, right? But yeah, it's
for first-time homes.
Yeah, for these homes, which is so stupid because anytime it's the same people who thought that printing money endlessly would just have absolutely no consequence.
And then they're blaming Trump for inflation when they just printed money and locked everyone inside their homes. And then I love we've been in control for fucking 30 years, but somehow everything is Trump's fault. And then every liberal on TikTok is like, oh my God, it's so embarrassing how dumb Republicans are. They don't know that you inherit all the economy before you. And so I'm like, everything we're thankful of, according to liberals on TikTok, we were thankful of because of Obama.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I know.
I didn't know.
No, I do want to say though, on the point of people being in these states, like the country's not like when you think of California or New York or these dark blue states, they're not all, it's like 45, 55. It's not like we're talking about like 10, 9, like there are a lot of normal people in these places, but this is where like, listen, the left is really like they believe the ends justify the means and they're really good at cheating. They just have no moral qualms. They will just go and do the craziest stuff and rig the system. And the problem is that conservatives, we've spent decades just playing nice and like minding our own business and playing by the rules when they don't play by the rules. So
no,
isn't that what, did you see the headline of, is it Minneapolis? Where is it? In I'm gonna find it for a second.
What's the one where they're doing Muslim prayers 5 times a day?
In Minneapolis, it's the first American city to have the call to prayer, the Muslim call to prayer 5 times a day for the entire city. Welcome to the caliphate. What the fuck?
Next they'll pass Sharia law.
Yeah, I mean, Sharia law, like that is happening. There are parts of America now. It's mirroring like what was happening in France, and they've been like 2 decades ahead of us at least on this. But there are parts of this country where like you read about honor killings, things happen, and like I just wonder how much we don't know that happens where there are just areas where the police decide they're not going to be doing anything, they're not going to go there, they're not going to try to enforce American law. And you were talking about someone earlier who was talking about Mugford. But you were talking about that girl who was saying, you know, like, well, like we're British immigrants, which is so insane.
But yeah, like God bless her, she means well. But
no, but don't even
this thing of we're all immigrants is not fucking true. Like my entire dad's side of this family has fought for this fucking country. We've been here for God knows how long. And the thing is too, then she was saying like, you know, her roommate is a communist.
Yeah.
And then I was like, so why doesn't he go to like North Korea? And she's like, well, that's not communist. That's a dictatorship. I go, what the fuck do you think communism is?
Yeah. No, but people are just there's no expectation for education anymore. So people just say things without reading anything, knowing anything. Her life is completely unaffected by this, right? So, you know, they say it's a conservative is just a liberal who's been mugged. And it's like what some of these people need. It's like people don't understand guns until they need one, right?
Oh, yeah.
Monk fruit. Oh.
That is like the cutest thing I've ever saw. We need some like heartfelt to this spot. She loves itching her little eyeballs. It's very cute.
It's funny too. It's crying over Sharia law.
She's like, no. You know what's funny? She does have a little Muslim prayer mat that she sits on and pees on, which is really funny that someone left here and that is so cute. No, it is. This is my favorite thing though. She's like, yeah, like boyfriend, roommate, whatever. Yeah, he's a full blown like communist. He loves communism. And I'm like, so why doesn't he go somewhere that's communist? And then she's like, yeah, all he posts all day is anti-government stuff. And I go, you would be slaughtered by your government if you did that in a communist place.
Yeah. No, but people
so he's a Republican.
Also, when people talk about immigrants, a lot of people couldn't make it into America for a very long time. My family came by way of Canada because they couldn't make it in through Ellis Island. And I know lots of people who actually went like through Mexico back in the day and then eventually were able to migrate over here legally, but they were turned away at Ellis Island. So they went elsewhere. But also people who came here up until very recently, there was an idea that you would assimilate and that you would contribute. And there's just no idea like that anymore. It's like, no, we're supposed to bend around everyone else's values, and those values shouldn't be questioned, and they're all okay, except our values. Our values should be questioned, and they're not okay.
Yeah, like God forbid you have like Christian values, which is like whether, you know, like conservative Christian values, like whether you like it or not, that's like what the country was founded on. Like, I'm not even a religious person. If anything, I'm kind of anti-religion, but I accept that. I respect it. And I think also we've functioned very well for a very long time. And I think it should always stay that way. And it's kind of crazy because I'm like, why are you guys acting like it's so great that we're like importing all these like these cultures that are like heavily Muslim and love like Sharia law? And then I'm like, it's kind of funny because you notice like they don't want Muslims want to go infiltrate Christian countries. They don't want to go to their own places. And I'm like, yeah, I wonder why that is.
Yeah. Have you seen the clips of these pro-Palestine protests? And I say pro-Palestine, it's like pro-Hamas, pro-terror, anti-America protests. And you'll have one of these queers for Palestine, and one of them Muslim protesters is like cursing them out, telling them they don't want them there. It's like, this is who you're fighting for. You're the useful idiot. But that's what, and it's not just in that state. Like every leftist who's voting for Kamala Harris they're just a useful idiot, right?
Yeah.
It's that meme that you see everywhere, that cartoon that's a wolf talking to sheep saying, I'll become vegetarian when you elect me, I promise.
So how does that work? So what, 5 times a day, a bell is going to go off and everyone's going to take out their mats and kneel down to them?
It's not a bell. It's like an actual call to prayer where it's in Arabic and and it's just, and it's kind of loud. It's kind of noisy, and it goes from pretty early in the morning.
You know what I always find so interesting? And at this point, I just am so confused. Like, they're cracking down on free speech because it's election season. It's not just me. It's my wellness girlfriends. I was like, you know what's so interesting? Like, look, I'm not a fucking monster. Obviously, what's happening is very sad. I do not believe it's a genocide. I believe, unfortunately, you did fucked up shit and now you're facing consequences. And if you choose to have these people in charge underneath them, you're also going to face those consequences as well. Mm-hmm. Obviously, no children should ever be harmed, and any child lost is extremely devastating. That's why you shouldn't go slaughter innocent people when they're minding their fucking business. But it is crazy. I always wonder, the pro-Palestine people who love to blow up my feed, even if I'm talking about shopping, about all the babies dying. And I go, okay, well, you guys are white American girls. Why do you care so much about children dying in other countries, but you don't seem to give a fuck under this administration how many hundreds of thousands of kids are gone and being raped and trafficked at your own border inside your country? Why is it you care so much about those kids, but not the kids that you could bring attention to and help here? Like, fuck American kids being trafficked. Let's only help Palestinian kids. I just wonder why that is.
Yeah. Do you remember the AOC photo shoot of her in that all white outfit crying hysterically at the fence? I know. And we're not seeing that now. And now it's so much worse. The border is so much worse. Yeah. It's actually scary. And like, that's something I think about a lot when I think of what the October surprise is like planned. What is that? Is it like all these illegals get their free government? By the way, nothing's ever free. We're paying for it, but they're getting their government issued phones, right? And like, are they gonna I don't think they'll listen to our government. Now that they're here, they don't care. But there's a theory that like they'll all get some sort of message to like do something. I don't know that I don't think I believe that, but I just do think what's the October surprise? We're a month away, and I'm pretty nervous because they keep pulling out all kinds of tricks and all kinds of nasty tricks. And I
think the surprise is just going to be how many immigrants they can get to illegally vote, which is crazy. If we pass like strict voter IDs, like imagine like we would win by probably like over 70%. You know what I mean? We'd win by a landslide.
Yeah. When I think about election night, I just feel like, does anyone else have this sinking feeling where I'm like, do we actually get to know the results the night of? Because are they going to let us? Are we able to stop them from, anyone here, I don't know if anyone here is doing poll watching, but especially if you're in a swing state, if I were living Michigan or one of those states right now, I would 100% be volunteering to do that. I wish I could. Like Florida at this point is just like red. So it's like we're pretty good here, God willing. But if I were in Michigan, I'd be one of those poll watchers and I would make them physically remove me. They could arrest me. I'm not leaving. I'm not like, I would wear a diaper. I would go in for the night and I would wear a diaper to make sure that they couldn't get 2 minutes without me watching them count every single ballot.
Why is it we could count every case of COVID and live updates every 2 seconds, and we used to be able to count it in one night? Monk fruit, that's not your napkin. But now we can't count the election in like 48 hours. Like, isn't that interesting? But that's because they have to factor in all the fake votes, ballots, the illegals, everything. But it's funny. I'm like, we could count COVID cases faster.
Yeah. 100%.
It's so interesting how that works.
It is interesting. Well, by the way, that's exactly what happens with like everything happening when you see like the numbers out of the war in Gaza, where Israel, like to this, like it took them over half a year to actually have an accurate number of dead, and they were trying to trace people, and like a building blows up, you find out it's from like PIJ, like PIJ, which is like a Palestinian like Islamic Jihad group, which is basically Hamas, and they bomb their own hospital. It's actually a parking lot, and like immediately they're like, we know it was this many hundred women and children, no terrorists, and you're like, oh, how did you know that?
But aren't a lot of you guys kind of ideology wise aligned with these terrorists?
First of all, the civilians were literally parading dead bodies around the street. So 100%. But also it's like, you're telling me within 10 minutes of an explosion that you know for a fact. And then of course, when it ends up being revised, because it was so obvious that it was basically a Hamas rocket, and that in like one of these cases, that's when people talk about like the genocide, whatever. Like, what numbers are you even talking about? Because there's also like when it's intentional, is this intentional? Like, no, it's like there's so many things, and this is not meant to be a podcast about that. Maybe we'll do an episode at some point on it, but it's the exact same thing. Yeah, remember they had that the COVID deaths tracker, and then once Biden and Harris were in office, it just disappeared.
Magically stopped. This is crazy too, because we did the episode talking about obviously, all the immigration and crime going on around the world. So yesterday I was on TikTok and I saw this girl's like she is one of the biggest fashion bloggers in the world. She's a real fashion blogger, like millions of followers. She's actually she's beautiful. She looks like an actual supermodel. She's one of the real ones. Like, she's at every show, front row, head to toe. Yeah. I think her name's like Xenia. And I've actually followed her on all of her accounts for a long time because she's fucking stunning and really knows how to like put things together. So she did a video yesterday. She lives in Paris with, I think, her husband, and 5 men in ski masks somehow broke into her apartment, somehow ripped her fire escape like off the building or something crazy. I saved the video, and went into her apartment, stole, and of course this apartment's like a work of art, stole everything. And I mean, one of her outfits alone is probably like $100,000 outfit easily. And she's been doing this for like probably 15 years. So everything she owns is designer. So you're talking probably millions and millions and millions. Then they actually went in 3 times.
Oh my God.
And so they stole everything, and then they shattered all the glass and everything, broke everything else. And then they actually kidnapped her assistant, tied her up, had her assistant call her. Her assistant managed to hit the SOS button on her phone. And she said the police, her assistant's like literally traumatized. She's like, I wouldn't even be shocked if she quit tomorrow. So clearly they were watching her. They found out who she is. They watched her. They were probably stalking her. So she said that the police took over an hour to get there. She said they haven't found any of the guys. And she even mentioned on the video, she said crime in Paris is like finding a croissant. So I'm like, oh, so you're admitting, as, let's be real, a very liberal woman. Everyone in fashion is a fucking hardcore liberal. You're admitting the crime there is fucking out of control. And she was like, you could tell she was like holding back because of everything. But I'm like, that is the craziest story I've ever heard someone with a huge platform talk about. Like, I can't even imagine what's stolen, the damage done, what her assistant went through, who I assume is a fucking woman. And I'm just like, worldwide, just wondering, are you guys starting to rethink all of this? And then crazy, the day before that, I saw my girlfriend from high school posted, she got the shit beat out of her and robbed in Barcelona.
Oh my God. But this is what people are, what's really concerning to me is how until it even honestly, even when it happens to someone, you see these crazy headlines of people advocating for their abuser to not be arrested because it's like, well, they're like, their background means like they couldn't have known better. A good friend of mine in my building here told me that there's a new like couple in the building. He was talking to them. They saw he had something on like from New York, so they realized they're all originally from New York. My friend is the biggest Trump supporter you'll ever meet, and he was talking with them, and just I forget exactly what came up. Oh, they asked him what made him move to Florida, and he said, "I moved during the riots." And this girl went, "What riots?" And he said, "The BLM riots." And she said, "Oh, you mean the protests?"
No, we mean the riots.
You mean the riots. And he said, no. I mean the riots when they were burning down businesses and like streets were completely vandalized.
She'd probably think differently if they burned down her fucking family business and her house.
Yeah. But you know what she said? He asked, "Why did you move from New York?" And she said, "New York's just gotten so bad." And he's like,
cognitive dissonance.
Exactly. And it's so crazy because I'm sorry, how fucking dumb do you have to be? Like how thick is your skull that you could be in New York and see how bad it's gotten? Every time I go back, the city's dirtier, smellier.
It's honestly, I'm not going to lie. New York's great. I love getting to like go work there. It's fucking disgusting. I'm sorry. Unless you're in the nice parts, great. But the fact that people spend $50 million on condos to walk downstairs and there's like crackheads pissing, like, sorry, New York's fucking dirty and gross. You can say the same thing about LA, but like in Beverly Hills, Palisades, Malibu, like Santa Monica, like it's still pretty fucking nice.
It's still nice. No, but New York is crazy. Right now, I have friends who actively talk about the fact that they think about what headphones they want to buy because they want noise canceling, but they can't noise cancel when they're down in the subway.
They don't want to die.
They don't want to get shoved in front of a subway. And so they can't actually, they don't want like the over the ear Bose headphones because of that. I'm like, do you not hear yourself right now? And so now in 2024, it's not like COVID where, okay, like all those limousine liberals that were able to afford it left the policies that they voted for in New York and came down to Florida, including AOC, who was here on vacation. But this girl and her boyfriend, husband, whatever, they came down from New York this month because they're sick of the policies they voted for and they're here in Florida. That is really scary to me. It's also scary to me that I saw stats on this a while ago. I pray, like DeSantis is a really serious guy, so I'm just hoping and kind of assuming that he's doing something about this. But apparently the highest numbers of illegals imported into a state is in Florida. So that's also very scary. I saw a stat maybe 2 months ago at this point, and they were showing the numbers that were known with like the flights and the buses. And it said like over 800,000 that they had tracked towards Florida. And that's really concerning. But in a way, I'm like, okay, listen, I know DeSantis is so serious that like, honestly, this is the best state for us to deal with that. Yeah. I was in Martha's Vineyard last week and I was getting it toured around and we passed that house and my family friend went, "That's where they dropped off the migrants."
You should put like a poster there.
I was like, there should be one of those like historical signs at that point. Like, this is where they dropped them off and where we promptly called the National Guard.
Yeah. You know what's like so well, is that where they dropped them off and then all the people there got pissed and then bust them out?
Yeah, they bust them out. But my thing is, I agree. Like, if I were there, I would also want the National Guard to come and get them the fuck out of there. But the difference is these are NIMBY limousine liberals who are just like, oh, I'm going to vote for a policy. Like, you have to take the illegals, like, but just not near me.
It's funny. The place me and my boyfriend used to live, I was wearing like something Trump, and this obnoxious older woman. I mean, just like, it's just out of her fucking mind. Would always hear her yelling. One of the first interaction we ever had with her was like one of those moments where you're like, holy shit, these people are so fucking dumb. It's actually unbelievable. So she looks at me, I'm wearing MAGA something, and I was like, and she immediately says something like nasty, like, I don't like Republicans. And I was like, I don't like politics. I don't like Republicans. And I was like, cool, this is awkward. And then I was like, and then she was like, yeah, I moved here because during COVID, we had to I couldn't work and they like shut down my business. And I'm like, okay. And then she's like, I moved into a condo because it was safer because my house and cars kept getting broken into. And I'm like, okay. And then she was like, yeah. And then I couldn't buy a place because the interest rates were so high. And I'm like, okay, so none. And then me and my boyfriend were like, if 5 of these things she can't connect, she's not going to connect the next 4,000.
Yeah.
And then totally off subject. This is really random. I know one of the chicks from the Red Scare podcast, I guess, went to a gun range and dressed it up as like a Hamas looking terrorist. And I think put like the scarf on and then shot at it. TikTok was going insane yesterday. So everyone's canceling them now, which I thought was really funny. Cause I was like,
yeah, but if you made it Donald Trump's face, that would be fine.
That would be so cool. But I was funny because I've never listened to them and I don't know them, but I was like, oh, that actually kind of makes me like them a little bit.
The number of people I actually know, like I have heard people say, like, was he really shot? It's so insane. It's so insane to me.
I mean, what world are we living in? It was funny too because when I was playing Celebrity Poker Tour, that Tana Moga, whatever the fuck her name is, chick was there, and I just wanted to be like, hey, do you want to pass the torch to me and my girlfriend? Because we actually do a podcast that should be called Canceled because we don't fucking bend the knee like you guys do every time you get fucking called out. Like, dude, what a shitty person for like letting her co-host like step out, like she's like punishing her for like not even racist tweets when she was younger. And I was like, dude, you should not be able to have the name canceled.
I agree.
If you're going to be that weak with your fucking followers.
Yeah. Which, by the way, just always goes to show you, never apologize, never bend the knee. It never goes, literally never. Hold the line and be unapologetic. Be unapologetic. You know, I love that meme that shows a guy, it's like an Atlas, like from Atlas Shrugged, you know, like the famous statue, holding the world, like, you know, blocking the, like holding the world on his shoulders. And it's like the people who say gay and retarded.
I was going to say, I was like, the one I'm talking about is a lot worse, but yeah. And it's like it's like the last to hold the line to say gay and retarded.
The people, no, it's like the people maintaining the First Amendment or like defending the First Amendment. Yeah. And it's like those that say gay and retarded. And it's like, you're all fucking welcome. You're all
But it's like, way to throw your co-host under the bus. Like, I think that's so fucked up. She's like, I'm going to let her sit out and reflect on her actions. Like, oh yeah, bitch. Like, you haven't fucking done anything fucked up in your career, right? You're like perfect. And I was like, that's so embarrassing to not stick up for your partner.
Yeah.
And to like bend the knee for your shitty fucking retarded audience. Like, 100%. No offense. Like, anyone listening to that is like mentally fucking challenged. You guys like what? Talk about like who you're dating and what drink you're having. It's like, that's so crazy to me. And it's funny, I even saw liberal trans people being like, yeah, one thing about me, like when I'm famous, like I won't be apologizing. And I'm like, this is so embarrassing. But I wanted to be like, hey, babe, why don't you pass the torch to people who could actually maintain this?
I know. And if any of you think that we would drop each other, we know how crazy we both are. You know, we're aware. We came into this.
Also, like, you're allowed to have you're allowed to like say whatever the fuck you want and have separate opinions. And that also doesn't reflect the way I feel, but I would never fucking apologize for something else someone said because I wouldn't even apologize for something I've said.
Here we go.
Oh, baby, little monk fruit. She was like, monk fruit was like, what is that? She was like, no, I don't apologize for anything.
It's funny. Theo's passed out from the heat. So I think monk fruit knows it's probably the end of our time, the end of our hour.
Come here, baby. You want to say hi? Come here. And then also, by the way, guys, I played Celebrity Poker Tour and I got like, I think top 10 out of 80. So you guys can fucking suck my dick because everyone betted against me to fail.
I was betting against Emily, actually. I didn't think
my boyfriend was going to bet against me. And then I was like, you would have lost so much money.
Never bet against Emily is the lesson here.
She's like, well, wait, ready? Hey guys, welcome to episode number 4 of Officially Unfollowed with Arynne and Emily. Non-lip take and Emily Saves America. Yay!
That was perfect. Those are our handles. Go find us on Non-lip take, Emily Saves America, and Officially Unfollowed. We'll see you next week.
And good night.